G'day, Bomber fans. Well, I wouldn't usually talk about a VFL practice match, but I feel like the vibe around this one is a promising one. There was a proper look at all our draftees, including the ones that were battling injuries in the preseason, because we had a few of those guys. And one of the blokes of those three that were battling injuries genuinely tore it up, and I'm really excited about this one because this is a draftee that I was very, very keen for. So I'm going to, today, just relay the information I've heard because I wasn't at the game and it wasn't streamed. A big thank you to a lot of people who post and take time to message me when they have the chance with these games. It does help the channel a lot. But a special thank you to Scott from the Lunchtime Catch-Up podcast, Scooter McNeese. Not only did he give me a genuinely comprehensive report, but he did so on his birthday. So if you aren't already following him and his podcast, I really suggest you do. There's also a 30-minute recap of his game for Patreon members too. So yeah, thank you, Scott, and a big happy birthday. Wish him a happy birthday in the comments, but let's get into it. Alright, so the practice match was just regular VFL game. Most of the team was obviously VFL listed, but we did have 11 or 12 AFL listed players as well, who I will briefly recap. We won the game against the Pies very comfortably. It was a windy one, but we got up by 35 points, 96 to 61, which is just about the perfect scoreline when you think about it. I was thinking about this the other day, what the perfect score would be. You almost go at triple figures, but don't concede a score either. I feel like 96 to 61, that's just a good score. It did come from a last quarter surge because we're actually only a goal up at halftime and 9 points up at 3/4 time, so it was close until that stage, and then we kicked 6 of the next 7 goals to win the game. So that's promising for the VFL. The Pies did have a few outs, but still wins on the board for the vibe before the season starts. That is good. We have for a while been needing our VFL program to be strong, and hopefully this is a chance for that to happen. It's been a really tough year for the side already with the passing of Dale Tapping, but from all accounts he was building a strong foundation over there. And by the way, I don't think I've said on the channel yet, but we do actually have a new VFL coach. It's obviously extremely tough to replace a coach just before the season starts in circumstances like this. There's not going to be elite senior coaches floating about without a job. The best of the best will all be hired already, so we were kind of scrambling a bit to get something done. In the end, we went with Cameron Joyce, who's very experienced. He was a general manager at North Melbourne, coached the AFLW for a few seasons as well. He's got 26 years of footy experience. There were a few really annoyed by this because they felt it was Scott bringing his goons to the club, the North Melbourne gang. But, I mean, there wouldn't have been much we can actually do after Dale passed. As I said, all the best coaches would have already been taken. I'm not going to be too critical of this one. If it happened before the year, when we had options, I'd understand people being annoyed. But this was honestly just a result of horrible circumstances. But yeah, enough of that. Let's talk some of the players. Okay, let's start with the big one. This is really exciting. I loved seeing this, all the praise for this guy online. So, Zak Johnson. Obviously, he didn't really have a full preseason with us after that shoulder injury in his draft year. But I and a few others really liked this pickup at the draft. I remember thinking we were done after the Unwin pick. And then I was genuinely really happy that we took Johnson with pick 70. Not because we needed him, but because it just felt like a steal. And I said all of this in my draft video in the Zak Johnson recap. This is one of the guys I was really keen to see play. And we got our first look at him. From all accounts, he was best on ground. And think about that, right? This guy comes in after an injury-interrupted preseason, plays his first match play. I don't even think he's done any match sim or anything leading up to it. So he comes out in his first proper AFL-like hit-out and is best on ground. So Johnson off halfback, he had about 30 disposals apparently, but with ball in hand, he was awesome. And that comes as no surprise. I know many still wouldn't have seen him play yet, but I would say off the top of my head, already, and this is just from draft year alone, he might be around the top 10 or so best, or I guess most confident users at the club already. Maybe not quite, but he definitely has the potential to be one of our go-to designated kickers in the future. Scott tells me, not Brad Scott from the Lunchtime Catch-Up, tells me that Johnson's going to play senior footy this year, late this year. I think if he had a full preseason, we'd be talking about him as a Smokey Moore, kind of the same as Reece Unwin. Those two seem like real steals this draft. We're going to see this guy in the VFL, but I just love the way he finds space and is so composed with ball in hand. He just makes disposals look effortless sometimes. I really do think this is a steal of a pick, and we're starting to see bits of that already. Johnson did slow down as the game went on, apparently. I think 20 of his touches came around the first half. That's a rough estimate from a few people. But again, that could just be because of a slow preseason. This is his first footy-like game. So no, really promising signs from Johnson. Racked up the pill. He was good with it. There's definitely a chance to play footy later in the year when he gets his body to AFL standard. Let's talk some of the older guys playing. So Jai Menzie, I say older, but I mean already listed with the club before. So Menzie started us off hot up forward. He kicked an early goal for us. He had 2-2 for the game. He was involved and clearly a level above some of his defenders from the sounds of things. He applied solid pressure too, which is good. Just a standard VFL game from an AFL level player. Lamond Lowell, so he was another one who had people say good things about him. He started to find his feet a bit more. He's playing a lot on that wing, which I think is a great idea. Gives him a set position and lets him flourish there. And so far, the wing is where he's looked best. He was very physical, laid some big tackles. But everyone I spoke to or saw posts about the game had something to say about his ball use or decision making. It feels like he could be in AFL contention this year if he just really brushed up his ball use. So we got to see him really work on that this year. Remember, he's out of contract. Sardell Hawley, another wingman. He may have taken a hit to his confidence being left out of that Geelong practice squad. Maybe not. But it was good. It was a good indication that he still has work to do before he plays AFL. And he was really involved. He was marking well, using his tank well. And on a blustery day, he was decent by foot as well. Of all the players playing in this game, it's probably he and Menzie who are closest to playing senior footy. Those two would be in our list of emergencies next week against the Hawks, I reckon. Peter Wright, you know what? I'm gonna not talk about Peter Wright right now. I'll talk about him later in the video. I'll talk about some other players first. Okay, so let's look at Jerine and Vigo Vicentini because this is a little interesting combo. They're both very similar positions, both key forward rucks. Vigo was the one doing most of the rucking. He was the main ruck for the day, so he didn't get the look up forward that Jerine did. Unfortunately, Vigo was the one doing the hard work with no reward. Jerine up forward had some nice moments, it seems. He directly assisted Menzie for his first goal, keeping the ball in as it was rolling out of bounds. He kicked a goal. He was involved around the ground a lot more than Vigo was, and generally okay with the footy, which of course we know from his draft year. That was his point of difference. His ball use as a taller body, and there were glimpses of that yesterday. I'm sure we're going to see much more of it through the VFL. He's going to be a player that takes time to develop. Both these guys are. Vigo's middle name is literally Project Player. But yeah, both were okay, it seems. It's going to be interesting to see how we go, giving them the right amount of ruck and forward time with Goldstein in the team when he plays, Wright when he's fit. Another tall, Tom Edwards, not really that tall, but he plays as that goal-kicking marking target. The conditions were really poor for players like him, but he still did bob up for 2 goals, and that's the promising thing, I guess. He didn't seem to have that good a game, but still managed to kick a couple of goals, and I like that. When you kick goals and have chances but don't have a great game, that's really just what you want from a forward. Someone who doesn't impress every week, but still hits the scoreboard. And to me, that is much more impressive than just kicking 4 goals, going missing a few games after, and then having another big bag. Because so far, Edwards has proven that he's just consistent. He's kicked 4 in the AFL practice, 4 in the VFL practice the following week, and 2 this week. So that's 10 in 3 games. That's pretty good. Angus Clark, another one of the draftees I was really hyped for. For me, hearing Clark and Johnson read out were my favourite moments from draft night, aside from Kako, of course. But we knew that was going to happen. So I've got high hopes for Clark in defence once he sheds the lanky title. He was good, it seems, very aggressive from defence with his attack. He's got line-breaking bursts of speed and agility on him and a really good tank, as we know. So he'd often play on directly after marks to inject that pace into our attacks, and that's fun. Jaden Nguyen, he's another one who we saw for the first time. He was quiet for large parts of it, but had great moments. Kicked a goal, had a really nice courageous mark as well. Nguyen's going to be an interesting one because you look at him and wonder if he has the stature to play this level of footy, but then you watch him play and realise that he's got the mongrel in him that kind of makes up for it. He's looked good in the VFL when he's played. He obviously played there late last year as well and had a good game. So we're going to see if he can get to that next level, which is the AFL. Reece Unwin was a bit quieter, kicked a nice goal, but he was quiet, and that's okay because he's shown more than enough this preseason for me. He can have a quiet game. Archer Day Wicks, he was right in the guts to start, played the first centre bounce, I think he got a clearance, and that just shows his versatility because for me he's more of a forward. He was a tad rusty, and again that could be because of his limited preseason. He was another one who had surgery, he had an ankle or foot injury. He only recently started training again, but given he's been out of action so much and was able to play and do some good things. That's promising. He kicked a lovely goal from the pocket. He's an X-factor player, someone who can have defining moments in games, and that goal just proves it. I don't know how he kicked it. Rick Edwards captured it really well on Twitter if you want to go give it a look. And just before we go, Peter Wright, so unfortunately he came off the ground injured. He actually had to be assisted off the field, which is never good. He was carried off by trainers, so that is never an ideal sight. And look, the guy cops his fair share of hate. I'm sure someone's going to be weird enough in the comments to hate on him while he's injured. You might think he isn't a first-team player, and that's fair. I don't either. But you cannot question the importance of him being fit for our VFL program and for our AFL depth. We need this guy fit and firing and building confidence, because if he ever got back to his 2022 form or close to it, he'd be a genuine weapon. And at very least, I guess he would be someone who puts pressure on the forwards in our team. That's what we need him for. I know that there's going to be some crap talked in the comments, but we do need him fit for our system. Injuries like this hurt. We don't know how bad it is yet. He's getting scans today, so maybe by the time this is out we know. But yeah, it's unfortunate news. It didn't look great. When you're helped off, it never is great. So yeah, that's that. The main story of this video is Zak Johnson. Plenty of good news, plenty of good performances. Soured a bit by an injury. But that is all. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans. Thank you to everyone who helped out. Make sure you like, subscribe, and go Bombers.